Impatience can be a greater challenge to success than fear. Just like a plant that is able to turn sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and soil nutrients into leaves, fruits, and grains, by engaging in that creative activity that is our purpose, we can turn a confused jumble of life experiences into something that is energizing and mentally and emotionally nutritious, and even something that could change our physical lives and those of others for the better. Purpose is one of the 7 dimensions of wisdom. Presence, another dimension of wisdom, is one that is particularly involved in settling into that place in ourselves where ideas and images flow. We can sometimes forget that our main challenge is with our emotions rather than with what is happening in the world. It is through feeling and refining our emotional reactions to our situations that we find the most effective ways to act in the world. Instead of doing this, we sometimes tense up, push buttons, take actions, driven by impatience and apprehension. Some of these actions appear to produce results, others do not. But overall, we feel frustrated by the constraints that we are under. We've gone past fear, and we're now dealing more with impatience, frustration, and anger. The anger can be energizing, but can also radiate in raw and undeveloped forms that are unproductive, such as hitting, striking out at something out of frustration. It certainly feels better than being paralyzed by fear and anxiety, but it can be just as deadly. In dealing with frustration, it's important to acknowledge the areas where we need to get better in the quality and depth of what we produce out of our creative ideas and energies. We must remember that the grace of the dancer reflects freedom that is wrung from discipline and constraints. We haven't had as much patience with applying the discipline and working through the constraints as we need to. A bit more emotional honesty is the balm that must be applied to the bruise of impatience. Impatience is essentially us saying that we've produced more than reality says that we have. So which is correct? Our own perception that we should be further along, or the reality of where we are? If wisdom is more about being than knowing, then it's essential to become present in whatever is our current reality. In a sense, to accept it, to settle into it, even to feel its painful rough edges. As we do so, we find that we make external adjustments. For a simple example, we may drink more water because we had really become dehydrated, and that was one of the sources of our impatience and our discomfort. There's something in us that seeks a way of avoiding having to go through our current experiences and feel the accompanying emotions. It's actually another kind of fear. an internal shrinking away from the work of coming to terms with ourselves, a bit of internal cowardice that must be overcome. We can only teach others what we ourselves are willing to learn. That takes us back to the self, another dimension of wisdom, to Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, and to Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. No one else can do the work for us. In fact, no one may even know whether or not we're doing the work, or just pretending. But each of us will know, and ultimately it will be reflected in the quality of the work we produce. Freedom begins with unlocking our own mental prisons, as the bard Bob Marley sang. Personally, this has been one of the most difficult challenges I have faced so far. It's much more subtle and treacherous than outright terror. We may not always be able to manipulate our situation in the world, but there's never an excuse for not doing something with ourselves, for not using the time to be present, and in being present, to become a bit better at being authentically ourselves, and thus to be able to hear and to tap into that creative source that flows through each of us, ultimately also producing something that is of value to others. I'm Dr. Bernard Brooks. For life and business coaching, you can contact me at www.sophia.com, and that is Sophia spelt with 2 P's.